Let's go to MSNBC congressional reporter Michael Schnell and USA Today Washington Bureau Chief Susan Page, as well as former federal prosecutor and criminal defense attorney Duncan Levin. Michael, what are we hearing from the congressman?
Yeah, Anna, the congressman very defiant and denying these allegations against him. So we first saw a statement from him shortly after this news broke of this allegation, saying he was actually surprised that it took so long for the president to go after him, noting that he is a top foe of President Trump. They oftentimes see each other at odds. He said he's not going to stop criticizing the president despite these allegations. He also said he has no intention of dropping a lawsuit that he has against President Trump. It was filed back in 2021. Accusing the president of inciting the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Shortly after we saw that statement, Anna, he went on MSNBC where he categorically denied these allegations, calling them false. But he also warned that this could actually come back to hurt Republicans and Trump administration officials, saying that if Democrats take control of the House next year in the midterm elections, they could drag a number of these Trump administration officials before them and ask them questions under oath. Take a listen.
A federal judge just used Trump's favorite phrase against his own allies: no evidence. The court found zero proof that the DOJ was weaponized in a conspiracy case tied to Trump's circle. That directly undercuts Trump's victim narrative. His allies claim political persecution and loss. Meanwhile, Trump's own legal troubles remain very real, with major cases still backed by documents, witnesses, and court records. So the irony is brutal. Trump's side cried no evidence, and the judge agreed, but against him.
When we're in the majority, we will have subpoena power and accountability will happen. So Bill Pulte and any other lawless official who is carrying out these political prosecutions on behalf of Donald Trump, they should familiarize themselves with the Judiciary Committee room, because they're going to be spending a lot of time there answering questions.
Now, Anna, it's a big if, of course, because we are still months away from those November midterm elections. A lot could change from here to then. Republicans currently control the House. Democrats, of course, hoping to flip that. But it's interesting to show you at least how we're Democrats, or at least how Congressman Swalwell are thinking about how they may spend the last 2 years of the Trump administration if the House is able to put a check on the White House.
Michael Schnell, thanks for that. And so, Duncan, we don't have many details here. Swalwell is claiming he only has one mortgage, and it's in California. How are you looking at this referral to the DOJ?
Well, obviously, there's a pattern emerging since there are so many Democrats, Tish James, Adam Schiff, Lisa Cook, the Fed governor, who are all being sort of accused of this in a short time span.
Those charges were not dismissed because prosecutors had no evidence. They were dismissed over technical issues, problem with wording, procedure, or how certain counts were written. But the evidence did not disappear. The documents, phone calls, texts, recordings, grand jury testimony, and sworn witness statements are still there. The court case remains alive. That is the danger for Trump. A judge found no evidence for his allies' conspiracy claim, while the cases against Trump still contain plenty of evidence. His witch hunt narrative keeps collapsing in real courtrooms under real legal standards.
Look, a referral like this is not a finding of wrongdoing, particularly coming from a political appointee. But given recent actions by DOJ, I think we can be concerned about the way that they're viewing these cases. But this is one of the most binary areas of white collar law. Either a mortgage was application was violated or not. You don't prosecute mortgage fraud on rhetoric. So these cases are very fact intensive, very document driven. I mean, these are W-2s and bank statements and loan applications. And frankly, Eric Swalwell is a member of Congress. And so DC is presumptively his primary residence. The criminal referral is saying that he may have lied and said that it was his primary residence, but it wasn't. But typically members of Congress spend 150 to 180 days or more in DC. And if that's where he spends the majority of his nights during the session, it qualifies under many banks' primary residence definitions. And so there may not really be a case there. They can have a lot of rhetoric surrounding it.
While that narrative is falling apart, Trump's legal exposure is still very real. The charges he has faced across 4 major cases are not just political noise. They are tied to documents, witness testimony, subpoenas, federal evidence, the New York civil fraud judgment, and contempt findings from his refusal to comply with legal demands. Legal analysts looking at the full picture say there is more than enough evidence to justify serious accountability. Whether that accountability happens and when depends on the courts, prosecutors, and the political environment. But the key point is simple. The evidence is real. The danger is real. And Trump's strongest weapon has been delay. Every month without a trial is another month he avoids facing a jury.
But this comes down to the documents, and we really just don't know what the documents say yet or whether DOJ is going to do anything.
Right. And Susan, as we have already sort of laid out, there are others who've come before Swalwell here. He's now the 4th perceived political foe to face mortgage-related cases. Is this weaponization of the Justice Department?
Well, it's easy to see a pattern. These people share 2 things. They're accused of mortgage fraud, and they've criticized Donald Trump in the most serious of ways in their different roles. So you do not have to be a conspiracy theorist to see a connection here. And, even to the point of all of these people deny any wrongdoing. Falwell is dismissing it out of hand. Of course, these charges are not free for them. These people are now going to have to pay thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars to defend themselves legally. And that's a big cost to them. And it also serves, I think, as a kind of warning to other members of Congress, to other officials about what might happen to you, even if you aren't guilty of wrongdoing, if you criticize President Trump.
Duncan, Bill Pulte is a central figure here. He is the director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency, and he has been the one sending these mortgage-related cases to the DOJ. He was asked about it on CNBC in September. Let's watch.
The real question now is simple. How much longer can the delay strategy hold? The evidence is not going away. The charges are not going away. And the courts are not saying what Trump keeps claiming they are saying. So today we are breaking it all down. What this ruling actually means, how it undercuts Trump's broader conspiracy narrative, and why a technical dismissal is not the same as a finding of no evidence. We will look at the charges, the evidence behind them, which parts remain alive, which parts were trimmed, and how long Trump's legal team can keep using delay as their strongest defense.
I'm not going to be intimidated from pursuing mortgage fraud just because somebody has the special title of being a Fed governor. This is my job to ensure the safety and soundness of the mortgage market. It doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or Democrat or a Fed governor or somebody who mans a convenience store. If you commit mortgage fraud, you need to be held accountable, period.
Do you buy that answer, that it's just about doing the right thing, Duncan?
Not at all. I mean, first off, I agree that allegations of mortgage fraud have to be taken seriously, but the public should be equally concerned if criminal referrals are being used as political tools, which is so obviously what is happening here. And let's just go back a couple of months to when the DOJ dismissed the charges against New York's Mayor Eric Adams. They said, well, obviously Mayor Adams can't have these charges while he's mayor. It's going to distract from his duties as mayor. And we're trying to get rid of the politicization of, the criminal justice system. And that's exactly what they're doing here now. They're bringing all these charges against people. So
now the real question is simple. What does Trump's legal situation look like when you remove the spin and look only at the courts, the charges, and the evidence? In a case tied to Trump's political circle, his allies claimed the prosecution was politically motivated. They argued the DOJ had been weaponized against them, but the judge reviewed the record and found no evidence.
For whatever reason, Mortgage fraud has become the weird ammo of choice in Trump's attempt to weaponize the Justice Department against his enemies. And he has his handpicked guy at the FHFA, Bill Pulte, ready to help him target them. But it's not exactly proven to be a great or successful strategy. Earlier this month, ProPublica reported that 3 of Trump's cabinet secretaries did the exact same thing that Schiff, Cook, and James have been accused of doing. Labor Secretary Lori Chavez DeRaymer, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, and EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin. Now, earlier this week, Bloomberg reported that Trump's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent did the same thing, too. Uh-oh. All of them listed multiple homes as their primary residence on mortgage applications, but none of them were charged. Just Trump's enemies. Then there is the case of New York Attorney General Letitia James, which is very relevant to today's news. James is, of course, the Attorney General who successfully prosecuted Trump and his family for civil fraud. So back in April, a Trump appointee accused Attorney General James of mortgage fraud, and Trump's administration quickly publicized that fact. A Trump-appointed special prosecutor at the Justice Department, a guy by the name of Ed Martin, who we have talked about plenty before on this show, he has quite a track record, not one you like, probably, threw on a Columbo-style trench coat, there you can see him, and did a photo shoot in front of her house with the New York Post. Now, that same special prosecutor then called for James to resign over the allegations of fraud before any prosecution had even begun. And for the past 5 months, prosecutors in the Eastern District of Virginia have been spending valuable federal worker time investigating Letitia James. They do a lot of important stuff in this particular U.S. Attorney's Office, which we will discuss in a moment. But earlier this week, ABC News reported that after all those months of investigation and interviewing more than a dozen witnesses, federal prosecutors had still not found any clear evidence that James did anything wrong and declined to indict.
No evidence of interference, no evidence of manipulation, no evidence of a political prosecution. That matters because Trump has used this same victim narrative for years. He claims every case against him is a witch hunt. But inside courtrooms, those claims have to be backed by proof, and judges keep fighting that they are not. Meanwhile, Trump's own legal exposure remains serious. The charges, documents, witness statements, phone calls, recordings, and sworn testimony have not disappeared. And when some charges were dismissed, it was not because Trump was clear. Many were trimmed on technical grounds, problems with wording, procedure, or how specific counts were written. That's not exoneration.
Now, tonight, the New York Times reports that the lack of evidence is so obvious that even Trump's former defense attorney turned Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, you know, the guy who went and met with Ghislaine Maxwell, that guy, questioned the legal viability of bringing charges against James. And so now, the U.S. attorney in charge of the Eastern District of Virginia office, Eric Siebert, the person who made the decision not to indict Letitia James, tonight he resigned. He was reportedly forced to resign, forced out of his career position, all for the grave crime of not bringing criminal charges against one of Trump's enemies, even when there wasn't any evidence. That's the story. There is a lot that has happened today around the story of the U.S. attorney from the Eastern District of Virginia. This is what Trump said today earlier when he was asked if he would fire him.
I want to add, when I learned that he was blue-slipped through by 2 Democrat senators in Virginia, people that would never vote for it, the people that haven't voted for us for probably years, in my opinion, 2 bad guys.
In fact, it was Trump who nominated this guy to his current position. And the reason he wanted him out, as we've been talking about, is because he failed to bring charges against one of Trump's political enemies, because there wasn't the evidence to do it, to support it. But shortly following those remarks, that U.S. attorney, Eric Siebert, resigned. Now, joining me now is Democratic Senator from Virginia, Tim Kaine. Senator Kaine, thank you so much for being here. As you can tell, we're trying to piece together this story for people watching who are just tuning in. As I just played, I mean, Trump says that he wanted Siebert out because you and your colleague, Senator Mark Warner, blue-slipped him, which is a normal process. But we know from a range of reporting that it really looks like the real reason was because Siebert did not find anything to charge Letitia James with in this investigation and wouldn't move forward, as no U.S. attorney should. It seems to me, even with everything happening in this country, and there is a lot happening right now, that this is an enormous deal, that the president just forced out a federal prosecutor because he did not charge his political enemy. How big of a deal do you think everybody should see this as?
Jen, this is a very big deal, and let me add to it. Senator Warner and I, we've had the same practice under President Obama, Trump term 1, President Biden, Trump term 2. When we have vacancies in the U.S. Attorney's Office, and we have 2 in Virginia, Eastern District and Western District, we have applicants interviewed by a panel of former U.S. attorneys, Democrat and Republican. They make recommendations to Senator Warner and me. We interview them, and then we send 2 names for any vacancy to the White House. That's what we did here for both the Western District and the Eastern District, 2 names in each. The White House Counsel's Office, the Department of Justice vetted our recommendations, and they put before President Trump bona fide, solid prosecutor for him to nominate. In the Western District of Virginia, Todd Gilbert, who was a prosecutor in the Shenandoah Valley, who ran for the legislature and became the Republican Speaker of our House of Delegates, a strong pro-Trump supporter. That's who they nominated. In the Eastern District of Virginia, Eric Siebert, a guy who started his career as a police officer in Washington and then became a federal prosecutor. Donald Trump's team vetted these people. Donald Trump nominated these people and then appointed them in the interim role in both offices.
Trump's strongest weapon has been delay, appeals, motions, immunity claims, and procedural fights. But delay is not victory. It can slow accountability, but it cannot erase evidence. So the contrast is clear. Trump's allies claim weaponization and got told there was no evidence. But the evidence tied to Trump's own legal problems remains very real. Outside court, Trump can control the narrative. Inside court, however, evidence still matters.